All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Mobile Manga Podcast Criterion. The podcast where we go through classic manga or just like important manga, mostly volume by volume, and give some historical background on it and discuss it from like a perspective of talking about the medium's history and critically breaking it down. I'm Aria.
I am Lynn, also known as Emo Bingus.
Yeah, she's Emo Bingus on Discord for Halloween. That's what passes for a Halloween costume.
It's a fun gimmick. Anyway.
She's she's Sephiroth posting, is what she said.
Okay. Yeah,
we're covering
We're cutting that intro of myself. I'm gonna
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Keep it as is. Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm a historian of things that are unrelated to manga.
I'm Aria. I solely do this podcast. I'm a neat otherwise.
She's a librarian.
And so for the first episode, we decided to start out. I initially intended it to kind of start out slow, but it's actually not, because this is like a 4-volume series, and we ended up having to re-record this episode because it just ended up being way more to talk about than we expected. But we are covering Dororo, the series by Osamu Tezuka. And
what years did that run?
Oh, why? I'm glad you asked. That is a series from 1967 through 1969. Wow. So yeah, I have like a little intro prepared for this. Dororo. This week we are covering Volume 1. There are a total of 4 volumes in the Japanese edition. We have like 2 different English editions that are slightly different in various ways with their volume counts. But Dororo. This series is by Osamu Tezuka, the man widely known as the god of manga, who often gets credit for a ton of major innovations in the field of comics, particularly in terms of narrative scope, thematic depth, and highly cinematic, motion-driven panel flow, and who more or less invented TV anime with Astro Boy in 1963, which was made by his anime studio, Mushi Productions. Basically, if you don't know who this guy is, then welcome, I guess. Hopefully this podcast will teach you a few things about classic manga series and the history of the medium in general. That's kind of why we're doing it first. I wanted to start off with a Tezuka. In a few episodes, our first big goal on the show is to cover Berserk. I
thought we said we might do Nausicaa first.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. We're kind of still deciding whether or not we should do Berserk or Nausicaa first, but either way, this is going to be the first 4 episodes.
I will also interject very quickly. Our beloved son, Schmidt, the cat, is in his 7 p.m. scream zone, so you will likely be hearing that in the background. Have no fear, I am petting him the entire time. He's just going to scream even though I'm rubbing his tummy.
Oh, we love when the cat does his screamies. In a few episodes we might be starting our coverage of Berserk. We might be doing Nausicaa, but I did want to start with a manga by Tezuka-sama himself because there are a ton of them. None of them are like super long individually, and they're almost all insanely influential, and they're just super great and fun to read even today, despite their age. At this point, Tezuka is becoming one of my favorite mangaka, full stop. Although I would still consider myself a beginner Tezuka fan because I can't read his complete works until I'm better at Japanese. That's kind of what's motivating me at the moment to keep studying, though. I would love to read all 400 volumes of the complete works of Tezuka put out by Kodansha. Each of them is like 250 pages. This obviously contains a bunch of fascinating series that don't have English translations. Do you have something to say?
Oh, no, just that
okay.
I personally, just to mention now, I have never read any Tezuka before. I am, obviously familiar with his status.
She's a Tezuka virgin.
I am, in fact, a Tezuka virgin. I am definitely considering myself a fan so far.
Yeah, long story short, Tezuka, a lot of people have argued that he is overly worshipped, and he's far from the only father or mother, because some of the some important early mangaka were women, of modern manga, I do think he deserves the prestige he has, which I would liken to a mix of like Walt Disney and William Shakespeare and more. He's like if Walt Disney wasn't an evil sack of shit and instead remained motivated throughout his life to constantly grow as an artist and expand his horizons to both keep up with and create new trends as the medium he helped raise evolve. So not only did Tezuka Sensei help his like particular style of cute cinematic action and fantasy comics and cartoons for kids take off in Japan, but he was also usually at the forefront of imbuing those comics with a globally boundary pushing depth and at times maturity, which is not something you could say about nearly any other comics creator for their whole career. Anyway, though, some historical background on Dororo. This is like a Chanbara story set in a fantasy-infused Sengoku-era Japan, and it follows Hyakimaru, a basically like pre-industrial cyborg swordsman whose body parts were stolen by 48 demons, as he journeys across the land with Dororo, an adorable little shit who calls himself the greatest thief in Japan. As we mentioned, it was serialized from 1967 to 1968 in Weekly Shonen Sunday, which nowadays is kind of a lesser competitor to Weekly Shonen Jump, known right now basically just for Freren. It ended up being canceled in that magazine, and then it ran until being canceled again in 1969 in a magazine called Boken-o. Quick side note about Boken-o, which was a magazine published by Akita Shoten, but according to one of the books I'm using for research, which is Ike Exner's New History of Japanese Comics, the original name of Boken-o when it was founded in 1949 was Shonen Shoujo Boken-o. It was advertised as both a shonen and a shoujo manga magazine, which, as I'm going to argue again and again throughout the show, is extremely normal. Even from the 1950s, publishers knew that a ton of girls read so-called shonen magazines and vice versa, and once shoujo magazines had their moment of popularity among male readers in the 70s and 80s, and even went on to influence the manga in shonen or seinen magazines, these terms started to mean even less than they had before, especially in comparison to more specific art style terms like gekiga, bishoujo, or moe, which even themselves are kind of hazy terms. Certainly by the 21st century, these terms meant remarkably little to Japanese readers. And as far as I know, these days in Japan, it's kind of rare to refer to something as a seinen manga or a shonen manga or a shoujo manga. I just have like a weird pet peeve about Western fans using these terms way too often, which I find to kind of anachronistically reinforce gender stereotypes and contribute to a narrower understanding of manga. So in this show, just kind of as like a statement of intent, I'll try to avoid leaning on them too much. But Tezuka's work
that I believe that idea of sort of arguing that this concept of, shoujo shonen manga delineate a, kind of hard line of what demographic gender-wise a work is the intended audience for. Arguing against that is one of the thesis arguments of this entire podcast, I would say.
Wow, that's really speaking highly of it. I kind of view it as just kind of a pet argument. Like, I'm not like trying to structure this podcast.
I am 100% sure that it's going to come up in at least the introductions and probably the, content discussion of at least all 4 or 5 that we've talked about maybe doing in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I do want to show like the broadness of influences between things.
Exactly. The idea of how diverse a set of influences, Berserk, which we already discussed, is potentially maybe being, either second or third to talk about here, takes as much from things like Dororo as it does from, as will be a frequently discussed thesis when we get to Berserk, I'm sure, shoujo or bishoujo, largely manga. So,
I wouldn't say bishoujo. That's kind of a different thing, but yeah.
But we'll get to it when we get to it.
Indeed. Tezuka's work in particular shows how mangaka, especially back in the Showa era, like, when serializations were shorter, they would literally just publish their work in any magazine of any demographic that would publish them. Like, they were just the magazine that they published didn't always mean a lot. Speaking of which, though, you may have noticed that Dororo got axed 2 different times by 2 different magazines. The first time, Tezuka apparently put it on hold to work instead on a sci-fi series called Nomon, which I haven't read. It's not translated, and it doesn't really seem to be too well known. The second time, it was seemingly because of genuine popularity, which also led to the 1969 anime series getting canceled. This anime was produced by Tezuka Sensei's aforementioned Mushi Productions. It ended up airing 26 episodes, which makes it actually seem pretty compact yet complete by today's standards compared to the hundreds and hundreds of episodes produced for things like Astro Boy, Princess Knight, Kimba the White Lion, etc.
How much did Devilman have?
I don't know. At least 50. For sure.
I know that the Devilman TV series completely just is totally unrelated from the manga. But anyway.
Yeah. Apparently the Dororo anime was the first like world masterpiece theater series, at least according to Wikipedia. I'm not really sure what that means, considering that at that time it was called Kalpis Comic Theater.
Yeah, Kalpis as in Kalpico, but I actually did read up on that between the first and this attempt at recording this.
Wow.
And what that means is that as once Kalpico gave up that license, it was picked up by another company that decided they really wanted to do, they wanted the block to focus on adaptations of classic literature. Before that, it was kind of just
the West.
Yeah, mostly entirely Western classic literature. I think I asked that question last time, like if there was a Moon Princess thing, but no, there wasn't. It was all Western. But either way, the point is that it was a animation block focused on trying to do more serious, I would say more serious yet still, child friendly,
more cultured, like stuff you could show to the world and say, "Oh my God, look at Japan's amazing animation industry."
Yeah, it's the type of thing that, it's definitely child friendly. The entire block, it's not like something like Noitamina these days, which is a block that is like very much for adults. This is long before the time of late night anime.
Yeah, this is even before like anime as we know it as like a phenomenon driven by otaku.
Yeah.
It's more like still just Japanese cartoons.
But either way, Masterpiece Theater, Kalpis Masterpiece Theater, eventually World Masterpiece Theater, and several other names after World Masterpiece Theater were just attempts to, and a successful attempt to, create a block focusing on highbrow kids anime, I would say.
Wow. So everyone say thank you. Next time you crack open some strawberry milk that isn't milk, say thank you to Kalpico for elevating the medium of animation, or helping do so.
True.
Yeah, so Dororo also received a second adaptation of 24 episodes in 2019 from MAPPA, those guys that animate either really good-looking 3D or insanely stiff-looking 2D, although Lynn said this was before MAPPA was bad. So
yeah, MAPPA more or less got bad around the pandemic. Before the pandemic, they were not perfect, but better. Neither of us have watched the 2019 adaptation, though I will say the first OP of that is a banger, and the second OP is the most disappointing "Please put Asian Kung Fu Generation back in retirement" song I've heard in a long time.
So Dororo is not the first like Jidaigeki or like Japanese period drama manga produced by Tezuka. For just a few examples, I mean, this guy, as I alluded to, produced just utterly insane amounts of manga. For a few examples, you have the Shinsengumi, which I presume is about the late Edo era. This was published in 1963 in Shonen Book. There was also a manga called The Castle of Dawn from 1959 to 1961, which seems particularly Dororo-like for its focus on monsters and legends. And that's not even to mention the many miscellaneous samurai-themed one-shots he published throughout the 1950s, and I'm sure 1 or 2 or 5 of his Akahon books from the late 1940s were samurai-themed too. But Dororo arguably came out in a different moment in the cultural zeitgeist than those earlier manga, because starting in the late 1960s, there was a new wave of darker, usually more revisionist Jidaigeki stories, similar to like the new westerns that were made in America and Italy, coming out of both manga and film. Easily the most influential of these works was Shirato Sanpei's Kamui-den, or The Legend of Kamui, an early commercial gekiga and the headliner series of Japan's first underground or alternative manga magazine called Garo. This was probably the most influential of this wave, like within the medium of manga. And if you don't know, the long story short is that Gekiga was the movement of quote-unquote serious dramatic manga for adults that emerged largely in response to Tezuka's cutesy style, which Tezuka himself eventually tried to move towards later in his career. As for Kamui-den, which started in 1964, it told a very realistic, like explicitly Marxist story about the lives of peasants, outcasts, and ethnic minorities in the early Tokugawa era, and their struggles to rebel against the ruling daimyo and samurai. This work would have a big influence on other left-leaning, historically revisionist Jidai Gekiga from the early 70s, like Lone Wolf and Cub and Lady
Jidai
Snowblood.
Gekiga is really good.
Yeah, yeah. It is the same kanji, I believe, so...
That's actually brilliant, but yeah, Lady Snowblood.
Both of which greatly influenced film via their internationally popular adaptations. I mean, Tarantino loves those movies, right?
I mean, you've never seen Kill Bill Part 1. The final fight of Kill Bill Part 1 is straight up just the
Of course I've seen Kill Bill Part 1. Of course I've seen Kill Bill Part 1. What are you talking about?
I don't know. We were just talking the other day about how neither of us like Tarantino all that much. Anyway, moving on.
I was literally telling you that I do like Tarantino.
I forgot. Moving on.
Okay. Yeah, so Dororo doesn't exactly like fully fit into this lineage. As we'll discuss, it's very unique in a lot of ways and bears a lot of other influences, but it's important context to have for understanding where Dororo fits in the development of both manga and Jidaigeki, especially when you think about its portrayal of like peasant rebellion against the samurai class, which we'll especially get into next episode. Dororo also maintains a lot of the tropes surrounding like Sengoku era magic, ninjutsu, and superpowers that had led to a boom in fantasy ninja manga among Tezuka adjacent artists like Mitsuteru Yokoyama in the early 1960s. A lot of these originate from a best-selling 1959 novel called The Koga Ninja Scrolls by Futaro Yamada. Although it is based on the real-life history of the Koga and Iga clans and their like guerrilla warfare techniques fighting during the Sengoku era, the novel also takes inspiration from various folktales and myths, along with a heavy dash of sci-fi to portray the Koga clan as shape-shifting mutant ninjas with superpowers who fight each other. This book and its imitators are where a lot of like modern ninja lore about like, Sasuke, Jiraiya, magic jutsu, toad monsters, that kind of thing comes from. Naruto shit. But also the inspiration for a lot of early battle manga from the 60s, and arguably for the modern like Shonen Jump style battle manga further down the line. Anyway, Dororo is obviously not a ninja story per se, but its depiction of Sengoku-era warfare from a non-samurai perspective, complete with magic, monsters, and, like I said, weird pre-industrial cyborg mutants, clearly takes influence from and fits well alongside them. And then the final and most explicit influence on Dororo that's worth mentioning is Shigeru Mizuki's contemporary yokai-themed manga Kitaro, also called Gegege no Kitaro at various times over its convoluted and maybe still ongoing, I think. Is it still ongoing?
I was actually wrong. When I said that last time, I was thinking of Iruma-chan, which definitely seems like something of a like cultural sequel, but is by no means actually related.
Yeah, I couldn't find any information on that. So
yeah, I was
like,
totally dead wrong on that one. I was thinking of Iruma-chan rather than Gegege.
Yeah, Kitaro, by Shigeru Mizuki.
Iruma-kun.
As mentioned, yeah. I mean, that anime was on NHK, so... Okay, anyway. that's the whole thing. But yeah, like as mentioned, Tezuka was a very competitive artist who constantly tried to like mimic and improve on newer styles, even later on in his career. And in this manga, he like we'll get to it in this episode. He explicitly breaks the fourth wall to call out Mizuki, like essentially challenging him to do better. So it's also worth noting that about Dororo's context and identity. Dororo is also evidence of a period of stylistic transition for Tezuka. As mentioned, the Gekigo ethos had emerged from the explicit criticism of Tezuka's cartoony stories and visuals, and indeed Tezuka's popularity did start to decline in Japan starting in the mid-1960s, which is definitely why part of why Dororo got canceled in 1969. This would lead Tezuka in what some scholars call his quote-unquote dark period, to try and stay relevant and challenge his detractors by dabbling in like adult, socially realistic Gekiga himself. This started at exactly the same time that Dororo was being serialized, with 1968 through 1969 Swallowing the Earth, or Chikyu ga Nomu, or Chikyu o Nomu, sorry. And would last until Tezuka began his next big mass appeal serial, Blackjack, in 1973. Although he would return to the Gekiga style throughout the 70s for like sort of novel-length works like Ayako and I believe it's called Moo. It's about like a gay serial killer. I love Tezuka's. I don't know. I think it's probably kind of homophobic from what I've read of it, but
I mean, 1975.
Yeah, roughly. I think it's 76. I love Tezuka's cartoony style, and I think that manga and anime from the 1980s onward proved that it aged extremely well and was extremely influential. So it's a shame that it was like briefly falling out of favor in the late 60s and 70s, to the extent that even Tezuka abandoned it in certain works. I guess back then manga was kind of having its like pubescent PS360-esque gritty realism phase as a medium. That said, I do obviously respect Tezuka Sensei greatly for further pushing the boundaries of the kinds of stories his art could be used to tell. And I think he reached this kind of sweet spot of gritty substance while still having expressive and cute style with Dororo and some other contemporary works like this series called Vampires from 66 to 67 and Phoenix, which also started in 67 and continued on and off until his death in 1989.
And as far as I know, is widely considered his magnum opus, right?
Well, he considered it as magnum opus. He considered it as his life's work, basically. Like he was inspired by like the symphonies of like Stravinsky and stuff, writing Phoenix.
Big generational looping, cyclicals there. Wow, Phoenixes. Can you imagine that it's about cycles of life and perhaps Buddhism? I wonder if that will come up in this too.
Yeah, certainly no Buddhism will come up in the Sengoku era story.
No Buddhism in Dororo.
Phoenix, Blackjack, a series called Buddha. He literally has a historical epic biography of Siddhartha.
I forgot about that. I knew that, but I forgot.
Yeah, these series with the rest of Phoenix, it did definitely keep his cartoonier style going. Like, it didn't have the same kind of style that some of his Gekiga, especially from the early 70s, like Ode to Kirihito or The Book of Human Insects. It didn't have the same style as that, but I think Dororo in particular, being on kind of the cusp of the dark period, makes it very interesting. It makes it like a very interesting mix of styles and influences in Tezuka's career. And of course, Dororo also was influential in its, like, after it came out. You could see its influence in like Berserk for one. We'll certainly be talking about at length in those episodes how it takes a ton of influences from 60s and 70s manga like The Rose of Versailles, Devilman, and several others. But of course, one of those is Dororo. Hyakimaru's battle to get his body back from 48 demons and all the gadgets inside him that he uses to do so seems to have been a pretty novel idea at the time for the Jidaigeki genre, and you can obviously see its parallels in Guts' Black Swordsman persona in Berserk. Also, the dynamic between Guts and Puck, and later especially between Guts and Isidro, whose name in Japanese would be pronounced Isidoro, like thief, clearly contains like solid shades of Hyakimaru and Dororo's dynamic. As far as other things this series influenced that I could think of, as well as some further connections to Berserk by extension, I would argue that there's a lot of Dororo in the From Software game Sekiro, which I recently beat for the second time as research. Yeah, research. Like, just as there is a lot of Berserk in Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Dororo is also easily the most frequently remade Tezuka manga out there. There are so many comics and webtoons whose premise is like Dororo but set in the future, Dororo but steampunk, etc. All over the place. Dororo was also one of the first Tezuka series to be beloved by the burgeoning anime otaku community in America. Believe it or not, I honestly didn't, but Tezuka Sensei was invited to San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, the same one that these days is just a Disney and Warner Brothers press conference, back in 1980, and recalled that most fans there, including many young women, asked for drawings of Hyakimaru. Pretty cool, honestly, and it makes it kind of a shame that it was canceled before its time, because pretty soon after it got popular again. Ultimately, to me, though, a lot of the appeal of Dororo that we'll be talking about in these episodes is simply that it's Tezuka's work, meaning that pretty much every page sings with fluid action broken up almost invisibly by amazingly paced panels involving adorable and iconic characters on a journey with a deep and direct sense of empathy, tragedy, heart, and humanism. Tezuka is really the root of what makes manga appealing, so let's enjoy it together as we get into the breakdown.
So the first time around, we had the idea of, pretty closely summarizing every chapter. I think this time around, because we are only quote-unquote assigning a single volume, we're going to dial back on it a little bit. We're not going to go like page by page, I don't believe. So, Chapter 1, Hyakimaru. Chapter 1.
The Inception.
The Inception.
You want me to start this one?
No, I got it. All
right.
So, Chapter 1, The Inception, introduces us to, I would say, 3 principal characters. Those principal characters being Lord Daigo, who we are not given a last name of. It's
Kagemitsu. It's Kagemitsu.
I don't think we're given the name in this chapter, though. I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Daigo Kagemitsu is his name. Yeah. So, Daigo Kagemitsu is a stereotypical scheming mid-level noble who goes to a seemingly very sacred shrine with statues of 48 different devils. Likely, we are assuming, we didn't check the Japanese, but we're assuming that this version of devil means Asura, which Asura are Buddhist, correct? Not Shinto?
Yeah, this wouldn't be a shrine. This would be a temple.
Temple, yes. Wrong word. But it is a temple.
I also have no idea whether it's considered an Asura. That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, we don't know if they're Oni or Ashura or some other sort of devil. I don't know nearly enough about Japanese Buddhist Shintoism, but
I believe it's called Tendai Buddhism.
Tendai Buddhism is the
syncretic religion
official
between
term.
Those two.
I did read into this the other day as well. That's one of a couple of schools, but it's the one that became most popular right around the Sengoku era, so we can pretty heavily assume that's the school we're dealing with here.
Yeah, totally.
Either way, the point is that Daigo wishes to rule this land, this entire country. Lend me your strength and you'll have whatever you want. He wants to be Nobunaga, and the demons tell him through signs, give us your child. And by give us your child, he doesn't mean straight up sacrifice the baby. He means you each take a desired part of my child. Its eyes, ears, mouth, and hands. Take 48 parts. And
which we later learn also includes like the concept of senses. Like they took Hyakimaru's eyes, which takes his sight, but then they also just take his like general sense of touch, which I don't think he gets back for like the entire series.
I didn't actually catch that. Yeah. Fair enough.
So he basically has like the Strait of Ascending, the fifth layer from Made in Abyss, where you can't feel anything, so you end up accidentally biting into a wall.
Well, I mean, Hyakimaru doesn't do that, as we'll discuss.
No, yeah, as we'll discuss, but theoretically, he has that.
Yeah, I mean, well, little slug Hyakimaru in Chapter 2 probably bumped into a lot of walls. But anyway, the point is that Daigo then seals this pact and murders a priest in the process.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, a child is born. And the child is then shipped out, and literally the child, who we are not shown yet, but obviously are very much told, is born with absolutely nothing. He's just a little nugget. He is stuck in a
basket.
Bucket. Bucket or basket, and sent down the river.
Oh my god, it's my favorite Guilty Gear Strive character. Backit. So I wrote in my notes when I was reading this first chapter, like, oh my god, I'm sure I'm reading way too much into this. Is this intentionally a bit of an anti-Moses? I very much don't. I don't know. We talked about it, but I feel as if there's some level of intentional flipping of the like storybook Moses story here, of Hyakimaru being cast out from being cursed by a greedy noble, and eventually having a rivalry with his brother and father. I feel like that's somewhat intentional with how one-to-one it is at points, but at the same time, religion, at least so far, isn't actually that major of a part of what we're dealing with thematically here, despite the fact that obviously we're dealing with demons all over the damn place. Or Asherets, as you suggested.
Ashera, demons. Either way, where there is next to nothing, I would say explicitly nothing, Christian going on any further from this point on, and it probably makes me feel that the Moses comparisons are just coincidence. But either way, even then, we're not really dealing that much with Buddhism in a we definitely deal with
Buddhism. We definitely deal with Buddhism, I think, a little bit later, but that's definitely outside what we're reading here in Volume 1. Yeah. Tezuka definitely in works that are of his that are more Western themed. There definitely is like a sort of storybook version of Christianity. Like there's some Christian ideas in like Princess Knight, for example, which is obviously set in like the West, or like sort of like, it's Cinderella, it's Walt Disney fan fiction. It's set in like
fantasy,
fairy tale
France, Germany.
There's some stuff like that in there. Satan is in Princess Knight, but also so is Aphrodite. So it's kind of a hodgepodge. Tezuka, he definitely doesn't make any explicit references to, like, he doesn't get deep into like Christian doctrine in most of his manga. Although in Ode to Kirihito he kind of does. So I don't know. I don't actually think that you're like, is he the anti-Moses thing? It's like completely off base. He just might not have been thinking about it at this particular time.
Honestly, I would say if there's any moment he's thinking about it, it would be Chapter 1 here, and then he kind of drops it going forward.
Yeah, that's actually very fair.
I mean, as we will probably discuss, Tezuka is a little bit ADHD with his themes. He
goes fast,
puts stuff on the ground, says, hey, think about this, and then just kind of leaves it there for you to think about and moves on to set another thing down for you to think about.
I mean, you gotta remember, like, when he was writing this, it was like one chapter of Dororo, one chapter of vampires, one chapter of Phoenix, one chapter of Astro Boy in the newspaper, one chapter of like fucking Triton of the Sea or whatever, one chapter of the Princess Knight sequel. Oh, it's shit, now it's time for Dororo again, and now it's time for, like, he was just going from one serialization to another, so the lack of focus is very understandable, I think.
Yeah. Tezuka is the workaholic of all workaholics. There was an anecdote I remembered last time, but forgot the verification on, and I did then go and verify it. It was the author of Golgo 13, who was a contemporary of Tezuka who lived to a ripe old age compared to most of his contemporaries. At one point in the late 90s, early 2000s, wrote about how sad he was that all of the others worked themselves to death around him.
Yeah.
And Tezuka was definitely that kind of guy. As Aria just alluded to, he had like at least 3 serializations going at any
Usually
time.
like 5 or 6.
This included, you said, a really interesting form of serialization I'd never heard of before.
Like a page a day in newspapers.
Yeah, like a full page of manga once a day, just in the,
Asahi Shimbun. Yeah. This wasn't, I think it was just because of Tezuka's prestige and stuff, but like they totally could have gotten away with like just syndicating Astro Boy or something in the papers, but he drew entirely new chapters of Astro Boy just for the papers.
Very, very workaholic man, very proud of the amount of work he did, and totally. I mean, an enormous body of work, but it likely did contribute to his dying young.
Oh, his last words were, "I want to keep working."
Are you oh my god,
that's what I heard. I don't know, it might not be true.
Yeah,
but...
that one it feels a little apocryphal, but I believe it if it's true. So
all right, so I'll get the next chapter.
Sure.
We got the next chapter is like that was kind of the prologue. It's called the Inception. Now we got Hyakimaru, and we are introduced to our not titular because Dororo is the title, but we are introduced to the protagonist, at least for the first part of the series, Hyakimaru, walking across an empty field full of skeletons during a time of war, in this very arresting series of just continuous shots, showing, this is on page 24, showing Tezuka's cinematic chops, and he gets halted by your like generic level 1 enemy types, samurai dudes. Hyakimaru, pretty cool looking guy. I think we discussed last time Tezuka characters. I said that they're drawn like Pokemon, like they all have like completely different silhouettes based on what they are. Like there isn't like a standard version of human that Tezuka just puts in different roles. I mean, he kind of does. There's the whole star system, but we're not going to talk about that.
I will say that even the thugs here, we see you can really get a glimpse of 4 of them silhouette wise, and they do all have
different,
very different characters, but also all, I would say, half of them look like Popeye or early Disney characters, which
of
we
course
will discuss
the Disney and Fleischer
in the next chapter.
The Disney and Fleischer, that's in this chapter. The Disney and Fleischer,
okay.
The Disney and Fleischer influences are very pronounced. But yeah, we see him beating up some jobbers, as the Shonen Jump reading kids say. He pops his arms off. He's got 2 swords, and then he's Beyblade bursting all over these dudes. He's a tornado of death.
Spin.
Speaking of Moses, actually, did you know that Moses parted the Red Sea using the power of Beyblades?
That is canon. I forgot. The Chicago Pope canonized that recently. So
just another example of the massive influence that Tezuka has had. He beats some dudes up, puts his arms back on,
then beats up some sapient sandals.
Yeah, that happens in a very picturesque deserted village with some crows on the tree, really hammering home the idea that we're at war. And I also mentioned the first time, Tezuka's backgrounds are just so freaking good. I think mostly, obviously, he left it to his assistants at this point. But yeah, his the backgrounds in his comics are just so they're so tangible. They almost look like chunky marshmallows. And all the scenery that he draws has this very this unreal and cartoony, but very full and it just really immerses you in the environment. I
The
think you also
hatching, the hatching being done obviously at this time entirely by hand on the straw on the walls and the roofs, and I think the panel on 29 of the wind blowing through with the dust coming through,
yeah.
like the dust perfectly scattered to illustrate the way the wind is blowing. You know, whether it was Tezuka or his assistants, whoever did the hatching on the backgrounds through this entire volume is just genuinely masterful.
Yeah, manga from I really like manga from this time because it's from like a time before screen tone use was super prominent. Like I think it was mostly the 80s that really introduced screen tone use, and also just like, you know, that's the era of like Miyazaki and Otomo and stuff, who were like attending like fine arts universities and becoming like S rank masters of figure drawing to become manga artists. During this time, like, you do get manga being a little bit more of a more of a sort of DIY punk kind of art style, and without a lot of screen tones. So the shading is always very like, it's very like, it just looks handmade. Like manga is already very handmade in comparison to other like nationalities or schools of comics. And
I don't want to say amateur because, you know, obviously Tezuka is a master of this craft, but it feels less traditionally trained, I would say, in a way that
it's DIY.
Genuinely does.
It's DIY.
DIY is the better word. Yeah. But
and I
mean, I know.
Yeah. So
he killed the sandals.
He kills some sandals. I initially thought that this was like showing that he's like actually blind, because like he is blind, showing that he only perceives the person coming up to him as sandals, and then he slashes it and blood comes out. But obviously that isn't the case. He, because as we'll discuss, he basically functionally can see. These are just literally possessed sandals, Berserk style. You know, Berserk, the demons will possess skeletons or horses, and they this time they're sandals. So he slashes the sandal, he kills the sandals spurt out blood, almost comically, and then a cute little wolf follows him.
It's chopped in half.
Yeah, he chops it in half like a pancake.
The motion on this page is absolutely masterful. I did want to avoid going as page to page as we're going right now, but oh my god,
fine.
it's hard. It's hard not to, because of, you know, I'm going to show this page when I'm editing. Just absolutely beautiful use of motion.
I think the wolf is really cute, personally. I think he's like a funky little guy.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're saying like storybooks, Disney, etc. This guy looks like he's straight out of a short from like 1927.
Well, on page 33, when he's cuddling with the skeleton, he looks like he's having the time of his life. I love that little dude.
It's
Anyways,
very cute.
Speaking of little dudes, next up we are introduced to the actual titular character of Dororo, and he's being beaten to death by multiple adult men, all of whom again have very distinct silhouettes. Most of those silhouettes being whatever the Japanese version of chuds are.
Big, bulky, wearing a fundoshi and a vest to illustrate like unkempt poverty.
Yeah, they love the rice. They love they daimyo, simple as.
Score
and
some fucking goals.
Yeah, and but Dororo's like resisting. He's fucking throwing rocks at him. There's lots of antics as this guy tries to murder this child by drowning him in a river. And Hakimaru intervenes in his typically sort of like his wandering Ronin kind of aloof way, where he's like, you know, I don't really care about him, but you certainly don't want the spirit of a child to haunt you, do you? And these guys explain like Dororo's a real fucking pest. He's a thief. He's constantly ruining our lives. But just at that point, a possessed pile of moss comes out, and we get like a whole page illustration of that. But it
gruesomely dissolves one of the guys. Just
Yeah.
43 I will also put on screen, because it is just, the first page here that really sold me on, like, oh, we are dealing with something that, like, edgier than you would expect from, I don't know, something about
edgier than a Tezuka virgin would expect.
Edgier than a Tezuka virgin expected.
Yeah, later on we're getting straight up like peasant children being mown down by arrows and shit.
This is just our first shot of gruesomeness. There is absolutely no shortage of it going forward. It is a very dire and bleak series at times.
So the moss monsters chasing Dororo, crawling up the post of a bridge, and we get some sweet ass pages of Hyakimaru unsheathing, falling down, cutting the bridge supports out. We get this really awesome, I thought very ahead of its time, just showing off Tezuka's action paneling again, like the slash, and then shows it 2 more times to add impact of cutting the bridge out. It collapses.
The weight on display and the panel of the bridge collapsing is just, it feels very real. Like he probably, I don't know.
The motion
like
is not DIY.
Destroyed a toothpick bridge for it. I don't know.
The motion is just like insane. Like the motion's brilliant in this manga.
Yeah, I mean, he's invented Japanese TV animation. You can see his expertise over animation in his storyboards here.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, Dororo and Hyakimaru now officially meet. Hyakimaru tells Dororo about his shtick, that he's being followed by demons. Dororo following him around, calling him bro. I think it's really funny how he calls him bro in the English translation. He's just saying like aniki in Japanese, right? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of funny that he uses bro as like the subject of a sentence on its own, like not just my bro, but he's like bro will defeat you, or like bro is angry right now.
It sounds very Gen Alpha or Zuma.
A Gen Alpha. So Dororo, oldest Gen Alpha kid ever. So he declares his
Sorry, I flipped to page 55 and it's just a really funny page.
He declares his desire to steal Hyakimaru's sword, and then Hyakimaru scares him like Brook from One Piece style by popping out his eyes, showing him that they're fake.
And just, it looks like a Wooga meme. It looks like a meme format, honestly. It's just a really funny series of panels of the glass eyes falling out of Hyakimaru's head.
Yeah, Dororo's got a hilarious pose in the panel as well. He's like so scared.
Real good.
And then, Hyakimaru says, Dororo, pick those eyes up.
It's really good.
Anyway, so that's when we get Dororo sits down on a rock, youth pastor style, and starts elaborating the story of his youth, during which a wandering doctor picking medicinal herbs found the baby. The baby in the river.
The baby.
And we get, I don't know, I pointed this out on our first attempt, but there's like 7 panels of this guy looking around.
It's really funny. I will say, we haven't actually mentioned this go around, that Tezuka was trained as a doctor. He was a MD. And so it is very regular, you said last time around, that there's some sort of doctor as a bit of a self-insert in his series. This doctor here seems to be filling that role.
Very much so, yeah.
Sort of nursing. There's a recurring
creating
theme
something.
Of a doctor nursing something to life, or creating something largely artificial. In this case, Dororo is kind of a like Sengoku era cyborg, which, wow, Astro Boy is also a cyborg.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so he takes it back, and we see he takes baby Hyakimaru back, and we see baby Hyakimaru is Sans Undertale. He's a little worm guy.
Slugging around.
He looks sort of like the Eraserhead baby, but head wise, it's definitely
Sans
more
Undertale.
Sans Undertale. Yeah, he's a little cartoon skeleton.
It's straight up the exact shape. Like it's the exact shape. Anyway.
Yeah, so he's being nursed back to health by suckling on some gruel. This is legit so cute.
It's
like
a very cute segment.
He's wiggling around, and we find out that he actually has the ability to communicate psychically. If
he can't hear, see, or smell, what if he has powers beyond his senses? And
which makes perfect sense. This is a documented phenomenon in Sengoku era Japan.
It very much is. Slug boys always, people don't know it, but Sasaki Kojiro was actually a slug man.
Real, yeah. So the doctor decides to make Hyakimaru a body. We get this panel of him working away at some wood, like he's making Pinocchio. Which, yes, there's a lot of Pinocchio in a lot of Tezuka stories. Astro Boy, of course, is a very Pinocchiotic story, as Jacob Geller would say.
I will say that just art style wise, we already mentioned the Disney flesher aesthetic in a lot of the side characters, especially the men.
Yeah,
the doctor very much looks like Barra Geppetto,
especially the men. This implies that there are women in Dororo who don't just look like mouses. All the women in Dororo are mouse girls.
Well, the main woman we'll discuss this this episode doesn't really look like a mouse. She looks like the Gitrog monster. So.
Oh yeah, well, okay, yeah, because she's more of like a Sengoku era lady with like the flowing straight hair. Yeah.
I will say most of the women tend to look far more, quote unquote stereotypically Japanese, while the men look very much cartoony in a Western sense.
I mean, I don't know. There's kind of some convergent evolution going on there, because if you watch any Sengoku era movie, Japanese men are like, they're always like crouching down, like looking like fucking little dudes,
I can definitely buy it being so convergent to a degree. Yeah,
they're very round and hairy and kind of chuddy, literally the classic definition of chud.
Anyway,
what?
Just moving on, describing that Hyakimaru is made into a real boy, parentheses, entirely, entirely
artificial.
Made of wood, entirely artificial.
He's got a little penis sticking to his leg.
He does have a little chode. And
wow, okay.
How did I say that? Learns to walk and run and jump entirely using his psychic powers. Yeah. At which point, I wrote in my notes that I really expected at this point a theme of the weakest amongst us are the most powerful due to adapting to their limitations. I will say it's not there.
That is actually more of a theme than disability in a traditional sense, I would say.
Yeah, well, but that is, I would say that's a rather stereotypical theme about disability, right?
That's fair.
Especially from this era that sort of a bit patronizing of oh, don't worry, everybody's special in their own way treatment of disability.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're talking 1969. By no means is this anything but progressive for its time. But, I think there is a lot more going on for it than just that theme that has, in the 50 years since this has been published, become a little bit trite, but was by no means trite by, the time that Tezuka wrote this.
Yeah. But, so he learns to walk and stuff. The classic Magic the Gathering Alpha card, Word of Command, just two eyes and the emerging from the blackness, comes and finds him.
That's a good one for a thumbnail. I don't know. I think a thumbnail should definitely have adult Hyakimaru on it.
Yeah.
But I really like that panel. It's obviously going on screen right as we're talking about it now. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fucked up.
When you wake up and smell the Zaza. Yeah.
Fuck
There's
off.
there's
He is smoking, isn't he?
he is smoking. Yeah. So various demons come to their house. One of them is actually another like pretty like normal like looking Japanese woman. But actually she's an I guess Indonesian hair monster. There's like an Indonesian whatever they call yokai over there that are like hair monsters.
I forget, probably should have looked that one up because I knew we were going to talk about it again. But the, rather famous Indonesian demon that pop head off and strangle man with hair tentacle.
So she does that. It looks pretty cool. Yakimaru is just a beast though, because he severs this woman's head and then sets it on fire to save his adopted father.
Just absolutely zero hesitation. He is one hell of a kid.
But the hauntings continue, and they tend to be a lot sillier. You've got various Muppets, very Shigeru Mizuki style, actually, right? Like similar to the yokai in Kitaro, who are also very Muppet-like.
Page 76 has a very good collection of fellas. So
yeah, they're all looking down. One of them's Kermit the Frog. They're pranking him. They're pranking Tezuka. Tezuka drew himself on page 75. So eventually, once Yakimaru's hair gets good and long, his dad tells him to go on a coming of age journey. To make it so that all the yokai and shit leave me alone. So as a parting gift,
I thought we were told his hair was fake, but we clearly see it growing.
The hair situation in this manga is very inconsistent.
I'm gonna make a theory. I think that on like when he's a child, the hair is like a wig, but killing the Indonesian hair demon gave him his hair back.
Oh, you know what? Because he does say like later on in the same chapter that he got his hair back from killing one of the demons. So yeah, maybe it was the first one. I
actually bet you that it was the first one gave his hair back, because like most of the demons give him back something relatively thematically appropriate.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if all the demons were like, yeah, we're gonna give, like, the hair is like the most worthless and like the easiest to lose control of, and also you're the only woman, and we hate women because it's the 1500s, so we're gonna give you the hair and also make you super weak.
That would be. But anyway, we have no proof of that. So
he gets the ability to the Ashura society is systemically sexist allocations. Have no backing. I don't know what I'm trying to do, honestly.
I have no idea.
Was that anything?
We can just cut that, this couple of seconds out. I had to respond to something from Exia anyway.
Okay. Yakimaru is out on a journey. He gets a sword in his arm. There's a cool little like bubble closing thing as he walks away. And he just randomly goes into a shrine or a temple. I think this is one. It would be a shrine.
It's small enough, I assume so. But
he goes into a shrine out of the rain where he is talked to by a disembodied exposition voice that tells him that he is missing 48 body parts. He will encounter 48 demons and he will kill them one by one to get his body parts back. He inquires after, who the fuck this voice is, but they don't say. But now Yakimaru has his objective and he, begins his journey.
He is stepping forward.
He is stepping forward.
Again, we are going to attempt to speed through this next chapter a little bit quicker.
Are we?
I don't know. I feel like since we're already at the hour mark, we should probably... I don't know. I don't know how I feel about going page by page. We'll figure it out.
We're like... Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Yeah, let's do some experimenting. How about this second chapter, just in general, the monk?
Yeah, the monk. Hyakimaru encounters a blind monk who he is impressed by and asks to teach him in, typical Sengoku or Jidaigeki fashion. The monk says no. Hyakimaru follows him anyway. A bit of a mirroring with Dororo there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The monk intentionally leads Hyakimaru up to a ruined, burnt village where there is a collection of war orphans who all have various forms of disability, one of whom is like poking out behind a post like a
He's a
cat.
hopping head. He's a disembodied head.
God, that's not even the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the one on the bottom right, not on the kind of top left there. No, that kid's just a head. What on earth is going on? You know what? Anatomy doesn't matter. It's Tezuka.
These kids got burnt bad enough that they're now a different ethnicity.
Ahem. These kids are pitiable. No one cares for them, you would say. Except we then immediately meet the woman who cares for them.
And she's blonde.
She's blonde.
All these poor
she's
kids have a beautiful
Mio.
blonde woman with big shoujo eyes caring for them.
She is the one who, I will say, very much looks like a mouse. I will give you Mousy for her.
Oh, I mean, Dororo's mom also looks like a mouse. She's the one who is, yeah.
I don't disagree. But, inevitably, Mio, after about 3 pages of existing...
Oh, she fucking dies. She gets fridged so fast.
She gets fridged incredibly quickly.
Not the last time this will happen in this manga. I think there's like 3 other times it happens.
Oh, no, these are not evil bandit chuts. These are soldiers this time.
Yeah, samurai are bandits. They're the same.
Yeah, there is a very heavy, anti-authoritarian. You would almost say Marxist tone going on here. I would not.
This manga is, Tezuka was not really a Marxist in the same way.
No, I don't think he's Marxist in the same way as the author of... Oh my gosh, I forgot the name already. What's...
Kamuiden.
Kamuiden, yes. As the author of Kamuiden, I would say that he's very... He has some left populist views, but is definitely more, non-denominational about it, as we will discuss in the next segment for sure.
Yeah.
But either way, soldiers, samurai are... villainous and cruel and kill a bunch of people, a bunch of kids for no reason. Hyakimaru
certainly things like that would never happen in real life.
Surely that did not happen all over the goddamn place in the Sengoku era and also in literally every war in human history.
Yeah, I mean, surely no modern army would just indiscriminately kill children just out of revenge.
Never. No one... Yeah. Anyway, Hyakimaru is cool, and he Beyblade through the samurai, and pins one to the wall, and oh my god, page 106 is actually really goddamn cool. I know we're not.
Yeah, there's a really good shot of him.
There's a very good fight scene.
Sulking, being like, man, the temple burns down. Oh, and also there was that woman who died. I forget her name. But don't worry, Hyakimaru forgot too.
Hyakimaru forgot. No, he actually says it. Mio was the first to breathe humanity into my heart, but she died, and my heart died with her. Feel my chest. There's no warmth. I think we can assume that his heart was already just not there.
Yeah, he probably gets it back at some point. But yeah,
Hyakimaru fights a monkey.
Dororo doesn't really care. He's like, I'm still gonna follow you. Also, fuck you, Shigeru Mizuki, you ain't shit. On page 109, we get an explicit call out of Shigeru Mizuki. Do you remember who that is, Lynn?
Yeah, the author of Kitaro.
Okay, she forgot the first time.
I did forget the first time. The author of Gegege no Kitaro. Yeah, Dororo then
He kills a monkey.
No, Dororo fails to kill the Shinigami monkey, and then Hyakimaru just, after being like, God, you can't possibly fight a god of death, just chops its head off in one swoop.
I really like page 111 though. That's an iconic bottom panel.
It's
Dororo.
a really good one.
Yeah.
Swinging a stick at a monkey.
We watched the live action Speed Racer movie the other day, and she was hating on Gibby in that movie, and I was like, there's a lot of Gibby in Dororo. I think Dororo's very Gibby coded.
I think I would like this manga a lot less if there was a chimp.
He's right there.
Yeah, and he dies immediately. Also, that's clearly not a chimp. It's a Japanese macaque.
I don't know. He's cool, though. I wish he was a main character.
I do wish he was a main character. Well, okay, he chuckles as his head is off, so he's not dead after all. I didn't actually catch that.
Anyway, so now we're in like I believe 3-part chapter.
Yep, it is a 3-parter.
We're in a 3-parter that rounds off the rest of the volume. That's a little arc involving a woman named Bandai, a frog monster that resembles something from Magic the Gathering, and some Marxism, perhaps. How do you feel about that?
A little bit of Marxism. There is. So, just very brief summary. We are introduced to a yokai, a weird little guy with a big ass head.
Big penis head.
Big penis head, who, while Hyakimaru is sleeping and Dororo is keeping watch because they're being real cute with each other at this point.
Yeah, there's a great gag on page 118 where they're both they're both watching the other one sleep and like dodging around each other.
It's really cute, keeping watch for one another without communicating it at all. They're becoming
still
found
standoffish.
Family. Wow.
They're still standoffish at this point, but yeah.
That fades pretty quickly.
Spoiler alert, though. I was gonna say good thing Dororo isn't a girl because then he'd fucking die. But Dororo actually is a girl. That's a spoiler for.
Well,
we're still saying he because that just works more naturally.
It's what everybody thinks, and it's what everybody thinks at this point.
Later on, like
that
specifically
is a spoiler for Volume 3, but it doesn't really make a difference.
Well, there's a lot of talk about it in Volume 4. I think 4 will be a good chance to talk about Tezuka and gender, which is really weird because Tezuka is both like a kind of a gender essentialist, but also like extremely gender fluid in terms of how he portrays characters, especially girls who look or like basically becoming boys. It's very interesting, and Dororo is one of such characters. But yeah, I was gonna say good thing Dororo isn't a girl because I guess Dororo must somehow be essentially a man on the inside because he does not die.
Yeah, well,
he doesn't instantly get killed.
Girls are different from women.
That's true.
No, the sister in Possessed Swordsman doesn't die. She doesn't.
Okay, that's fair.
That is true.
She never comes back, but she also doesn't die. Yeah,
no,
you're right.
Of course she doesn't come back.
Possessed Swordsman's in Volume 2.
Let's continue on with the Bandai arc.
Yeah, they go into a village because there's this spooky little bell ringing yokai. The village looks like some shit out of the Smurfs. I like it.
We're told that when the bell ringing yokai talks to somebody, this lady, the noble of the village, Lady Bandai, really wants to know what they said to him, or what they said to the people that the yokai shows up to. So she then punishes them for refusing to tell her what the yokai told them. Wow, my voice.
By tying them up in the shed.
They're tied up.
And there's a well in the shed.
Monstered.
There's a Gitrog monster type frog demon that emerges and tries to eat them. But Hyakimaru fucking pops his arms off, escaping the shackles, and slashes its throat, driving it off. But Dororo eventually discovers that, oh my god, the well is connected to the house. And he sneaks around a little bit. There's some gags where he's seen by some ladies in waiting and stuff, and he bites a peasant guy on the ass. And they slam his
beat
butt.
him up again.
There's some good gags. There's some good gag humor. But anyway, you said, I think the first time around recording this, that you found this really funny.
I did. I think that this bit of just he get inside the fat man ass and then they beat them both up, and I don't know, it's funny. I don't know. There's something fun slapstick about 134 and 135.
Oh, of course. There's lots of good slapstick.
All of these hijinks lead us to the revelation that Bandai is obviously hiding something. And we are told, oh my gosh, why, if she's so generous, feeding the poor, opening roads, building bridges, why is the village still so poor? And then we are told, actually, Hyakimaru did remember what Kanekozu the yokai told him last night. And Kanekozu the yokai leads him to a pile of money. Which, wow, I wonder where that money came from. Obviously, Bandai stole it. And this is the, thematic centerpiece of the rest of the arc. There is a big, elaborate, very fun fight scene with Bandai that we don't really need to go into in all that much detail. What I will go into in detail about is pages 148 and 149. Where we're told the land from that valley to here, the valley in which the village exists, was barren. We tilled that land from our grandfather's generation. We endured years of hardship with no food. And then Bandai shows up to the village and donates money. And they regain hope and worked. And, the village becomes fertile again. And then Bandai, or something takes all of the money, and the valley becomes mostly fallow again, and then it becomes fertile again, etc., etc. A cycle of Bandai stealing the money and, destroying the village in order to keep the people, granting her this status of nobility in poverty, so they keep paying her tribute and treating her like a noble. It's extremely obvious, I wouldn't, like we said, it's not necessarily doctrinal Marxism, but there is just obvious anti-elite, a level of populism going on. But what kind of leads us to question that is that after the fight, this entire, again, very wonderful sequence, but after it, Hyakimaru and Dororo are kicked out of the village, even though they helped free the villagers, helped free them from this cycle of abuse. They aren't really all that grateful. They immediately kick them back out, even after they've slain this demon, and we're not explicitly told why. We're left to assume, actually, no, we are kind of exactly told, yeah, and you give us the creeps. What's with your arms and legs? Were you dismembered? They immediately distrust outsiders, even though this outsider just freed them from their, cycle of poverty. They still have that level of distrust, that level of tribalism that, in a lot of ways tends to represent populism in many situations. So even though he is expressing a level of, non-doctrinal leftism, a level of anti-elite economic populism, he still doesn't really think that villagers like this are by any means ideal. It's an interesting statement.
Yeah, I mean, you talked the first time about, like, well, first of all, we should like cover the fight, because the fight's like most of the chapter. Like, I mean, yeah, there's some hijinks where they like sneak around in the house. Dororo falls asleep. We find out that Dororo like sniffs her pillow, and he says that he hates how women smell, which I did not know how that figured into the story. Like I did not know like what did Tezuka mean by this, but turns out that from the rest of the story, I intuited that Dororo hates people who take baths. It's often commented on the fact that he is very stinky. He hates women who takes baths. Poor him though, because she sits on him. She sits on his face because he is inside a pillow, and she comes back and sits on him, and then she turns to a frog. They fight. There's a bamboo forest fight where there are bamboo spears being slug around with psychic powers, which I thought was probably very like pretty novel for a Chobara. Again, another like sci-fi twist. She turns into
launched with makeshift bamboo ballista.
They take her down using the peasants take her down using a bamboo ballista. She also transforms eventually into a sort of her hybrid form, which looks like some awesome kabuki demon. There's a great 2-page spread of her and Hyakimaru fighting. Very One Piece. Like there's like a lot of like Wano. There's a lot of honestly the backgrounds. Oda is like hugely influenced by Tezuka in terms of keeping Tezuka's style alive. There's a lot of that feeling on pages. What is it? 178 through 179.
It's she's destroying the house as if it was a kabuki stage. It's a very
and there are some
framed
peasants
shot
to the side doing like fucking sound effects and reacting to it and shit. It's so cool.
It's incredibly charming.
Oh, it's also another very Sekiro, but he gets struck by lightning and channels the lightning into an attack.
Oh yeah, he does. Jesus Christ, that's
a thing in Sekiro.
I wonder if, not only is that a thing in Sekiro, I didn't ever catch that. I wonder if that's like the demons granting him. I don't know what's happening there.
I think she hits him with a lightning attack.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and he channels it into an attack from there. And then the villagers kill her by striking her on the big ceremonial gong in the village with the, striking stick.
It's just a bell. It's a temple bell. It's not really a gong.
It feels... They say, hurry, strike the gong. Yeah, it's a big temple bell, though. I feel like that's probably a level of symbolism that we are not understanding because we don't have the level of immersion in, Japanese Buddhist culture.
Yeah.
That I'm sure there's something he's saying with that, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me. We are given the backstory on the devil, the demon in question is a face tumor. It grows on the girl's knee and starts talking to her, tries to talk her, seemingly into giving herself up to it, but we don't really know that much detail about it. We're just told that Lady Bondi was at one point a real woman who was taken over by this demon, this face tumor. And yeah, I don't know what to make of the face tumor, honestly.
You knew what to make of it last time.
Well, no, I know what to make of it in terms of that devil lived in this valley a long time before you came and built a village here.
So you should restart. You should restart your discussion of the capitalist angle, because I don't think you expressed it as like fully as you did the first time. You kind of jumped the gun.
I don't know. The thing is, I'm not really sure what else to say. I think I expressed my thoughts pretty well because I really don't know enough about the devil itself. I don't understand what he's doing with the idea of the devil possessing her, of possessing a woman who, on page 184, it looks like she's just a peasant girl, right? She's wearing a straw hat. It looks like she's in the fields, just in a normal field gown. I don't know what is he saying, that like just random people can be possessed by the greed, of nobility, of elite domination of the poor. There is obviously something to be said about it, as we're talking about, like, Lady Bondi trapped the village in cycles of fallowness and fertileness, constantly
the
stealing
ideal is that
so they could never escape from it.
She was hiding their money and giving them some of it back so that they could never escape from a cycle. That's the upshot of the arc in the end. And when they save her, when they save the village from her, the villagers also kick them out because they think that someone like Yakimaru is unnatural and gross.
Despite the fact that the entire cycle itself has been unnatural and gross, they then immediately react to kicking out somebody else they see as unnatural and gross for saving them from that unnatural and gross cycle. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's where there is a level of, the cyclical control of the means of production, and the idea that the elite class have stuck a ratchet in the cycle and stopped it from being able to continue forward, just letting it repeat a small bit where the working class can never fully have control over the means of production. That's where there's a small level of doctrinal Marxism in here, but I don't know. It feels to me like you might have reached that, I don't want to say coincidentally, but through cultural osmosis, because it feels, I don't want to say underbaked, because I really don't think it is underbaked, but it's coming at it from an angle that doesn't feel Marxist in the same way that, like, you've described Kamui-den.
I mean, yeah, it seems like you kind of convinced yourself out of the opinion that you were trying to convince me into the first time we recorded, because your argument, it was that it's a commentary on how landlords treat peasants.
I think that is still obviously true.
Yeah.
It is obviously a commentary on landlordism, on the idea that, when I'm talking about the means of production there, Bondi is the lord, the elite, the landlord. She is literally the lord of the land, and, keeping it from ever producing enough money, enough value that the working class, the peasants, can exercise a level of control over it.
And she steals the excess.
She steals the excess. It's obviously commentary on feudal landlordism, but I think landlordism in general, because remember, this is, we're talking, Tezuka was born in the 1920s, correct?
1928, I believe.
Yeah, yep. And that's early Showa, right? That's not late Taisho?
Yeah, I believe Showa started in 25.
Certainly, Tezuka's, if not parents, then grandparents, actively lived through the land reforms of the Meiji Restoration.
Well, there were greater land reforms after World War II.
Land reform was a ongoing process, exactly.
Right,
yeah. This type of thing, he literally was around for the complete and final defeudalization of villages, rural villages in Japan.
There's a manga about it. He wrote a manga about it. It was called Ayako.
I didn't even know that. That's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
He wrote a manga about land reform. Gee,
yes.
Maybe he is a Marxist.
No, it's kind of showing, it's showing, like, the culture, apparently. I haven't read it.
Yeah.
But it's apparently showing the, like, cultural downfall of this, like, traditional Japanese family who are being displaced and torn apart by all the changes going on, but actually it's kind of their own fault because they were fucked up from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like The Sound and the Fury or something.
Yeah, that's a commentary from what it sounds like on the way that, elite families will look at,
inheritance.
Giving power.
Yeah.
Inheritance, giving power to the working class, look at it as oh my god, we're being betrayed, we're losing all of our rightful wealth.
Yeah.
Whereas in actuality, like, no, you guys have been horrible for generations. You built yourself up for failure, inevitably.
Yeah, the wealth was initially stolen.
Perhaps you would say they were parasites.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. You guys heard of Bong Joon-ho? Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think this is the first time I read through this arc. It was pretty good, but it didn't really, resonate with me as much as the arcs that we will talk about in the next episode, the Possessed Swordsman and Bondman arcs.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Volume 2 is going to be your peak of the series. There's some good stuff later, but it does end up kind of having a little bit of a bit of a weak ending.
Well, with being canceled twice, I can't say I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Like, the file size of Volume 1 is double the file size of Volume 3 that I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm thinking Volume 2 is probably the most stacked one.
I very, very much... I mean, having read Volume 2 already, I goddamn love it. But point is, after they're kicked out of the village, Dororo is sick. Hyakimaru manages with a lot of effort to treat him, get him relatively back up to health, but not before he has a drama series, Fever Dreams, talking about how, oh, mama, please don't die, papa, please come back, stuff like that.
We are being set up for his parents are important. He lost his parents and they died.
Perhaps the next chapter will be a flashback chapter.
Oh, and
but before that happens,
Hyakimaru makes a grave for his hand, which the translators informed me can be read Tezuka.
Wait, what?
His hand pops off because he got the arm back from Bandai, right? And he digs it. He's like, oh, it's a hand grave. And the translators are like, you can actually read the kanji for that. Tezuka.
Huh. I didn't actually... I missed that TL note when I was reading the first time. That's actually
pun.
Really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun pun. He's such a charming author. I really like that stuff. It's so, we just, had a 15-20 minute conversation about how doctrinal a Marxist he is, and then also, he funny, genuinely really charming, fun slapstick and puns. It's really unlike most anything I've read. I really love it, though, as we said, the next chapter where Dororo... finally does give us his flashback. The Misery Chronicles is the start of
Volume
3
2.
or 4 chapters in which, wow, I wrote so much about these next handful of chapters. So look forward to it. I really enjoy this.
All right, so yeah, we're done with Volume 1, so we're done with this episode. Next episode, I will actually write out summaries that we'll share, and we'll be a little bit more structured with how we go through the chapter and kind of center things more around discussion than just kind of going in between discussion and summarizing, fighting a little bit over disagreeing over the pace. So we'll do that. But yeah, so
they're not going to hear those disagreements. I'm going to cut them out.
Yeah, so. They were just so you know, they were violent. They got nasty.
Oh, we were there were slurs said.
There were slurs.
Yeah, anybody listening, thank you very much. We genuinely have had a lot of fun working on this so far, and I don't know, this is a fun project. I like doing it a lot. I like being able to read and talk about manga with my wife. Like we said,
I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah, you actually did in literally the opening line. Actually, I'm not sure if that was the first take or the...
That was our first take. That was, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, we are legally married. Wow, shocker.
Yep.
Dororo's cute. Hyakimaru is,
sexy.
Yeah, I get I get why all those American women wanted art of him.
He's got funny hair that isn't drawn very consistently. And
he looked like Hedgehog.
Hedgehog. Yeah,
Hedgehog.
So there's a lot of other good characters later on.
Oh my god.
Oh
my god. Is Hyakimaru Cold Steel the Hedgehog?
No, that's the guy.
I fucked it up.
That's the guy from the guy from the next chapter, or like one of the next chapters, The Cursed Sword, is Silver the Hedgehog. I described him in my notes as he looks like if Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons played Sephiroth.
All right, we're cutting there.
So yeah, just before we finish.
Nope, cut.
No. Twitter.
Oh yeah. Or not Twitter, because I do
Bluesky.
not any longer lose Twitter.
No.
Though Aria refers to Twitter as like a medium of social media rather than a specific website.
Being on X.com is worse than living in Bondi's village.
It sure is.
Yes.
But my Bluesky is at Fema. Fema.bsky.net, I believe.
Wow. I don't really use Bluesky that much.
Fema.bsky.social. Yeah, she doesn't use it all that much, but hers is.
No, I'm not saying, but the you can subscribe to this YouTube channel, which is my channel, so that's the equivalent. And also, if this actually gets listeners, I might start up a Bluesky page for it specifically.
I figured I was gonna run that, but
no.
Either way. Okay. Fair enough.
I'm a better poster than you.
You are a better poster. Hey, I got a post with 15 likes yesterday.
Wow.
That's a good skeet. Anyway, I kind of wanted to cut on a shitty Sonic joke twice now, but we're not going to do that, so we're just going to cut now.
See, that's why you're a bad poster. Okay. Bye.